Expressions with like denominators. When we're adding or subtracting rational expressions, the problems in which we have the same denominator in both expressions are the easiest kind to add and subtract. Just like when we were adding and subtracting fractions, we needed the same denominator before we could go ahead and proceed with the addition or subtraction. In this case, because we have the same denominator from the start, we know that we're going to have that same denominator in our result, so we can go ahead and write in the denominator. And in order to find the numerator, I'm just going to go ahead and perform this operation, addition or subtraction, in this case subtraction, and put the result in the numerator. So I'm going to subtract the numerators. One thing that we need to be cautious of when subtracting numerators is that this minus sign actually applies to the whole expression in this second numerator. So it's helpful to put parentheses around the two expressions as we rewrite them. This is 2x squared plus 1 minus, in parentheses, 5x plus 4. I don't really recommend trying to combine terms or do any simplifying in the same step that you write out the subtraction of numerators. It's much safer to get everything in a line first, where you're more likely to follow the kind of rules that you're familiar with showing up all in a line correctly. Here we can see that we would distribute that minus sign to both terms, and then that numerator would become 2x squared plus 1 minus 5x minus 4, still over a denominator of 4x squared minus 1. We are now ready to combine like terms and try to maybe factor if possible. I can see that I have a plus 1 and a minus 4 in the numerator that are both like terms. I'll go ahead and combine those and write it again. 2x squared minus 5x, and then the plus 1 and minus 4 term combine to get minus 3 as my constant term. This is all over 4x squared minus 1. So we're done with the subtraction step of this problem, but we always want to express our answers in the most simplified form, so I really still need to factor everything and check for common factors before I can be sure that I'm done. You may be familiar with a grouping method of factoring, which does involve quite a bit more writing, but in some cases is a more reliable method of factoring. So whatever method of factoring you have is fine to use at this point. I'm going to use the trial and error method on these just in order to speed up the video and go straight to the factored form. This would factor as 2x in the first factor, x in the second factor, and the factorization of 3 would be 3 and 1. I know that the 3 should get multiplied by the 2x, and the 1 should get multiplied by the x in order to get me that 5x because we're going to have opposite signs. So I will make the 3 negative and the 1 positive. Just as a quick little check here, my middle term would be outer, which is negative 6x, plus inner, which is plus 1x, which gets me that negative 5x for my middle term. 4x squared minus 1 in the denominator is a difference of squares. So the difference of squares factors as 2x plus 1, 2x minus 1, two factors that are identical except for the sign in the middle. Now I check for common factors. Of course, I see that 2x plus 1 is a common factor here, so those do cancel. And I'm left with x minus 3 in the numerator and 2x minus 1 in the denominator.